Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Eleanor Noble, President of ACTRA National. Thank you all for joining us here today for today's ACTRA Woman of the Year celebration. Marie Kelly, our National Executive Director and Lead Negotiator, is unfortunately unable to attend today's celebration, but sends her heartfelt congratulations to Juanita Peters. I'd also like to introduce Kathy Monroe, our ASL interpreter. Thank you for being with us today. As we do all our ACTRA meetings and celebrations, we will begin with reading the land acknowledgement led by Jen Viens, Chair of the ACTRA National Women's Committee. Jen?
Although this meeting is online, we acknowledge that we live, work, meet, and travel on the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples that have cared for this land, now called Canada, since time immemorial. These lands are either subject to First Nations self-government under modern treaty, unceded and unsurrendered territories, or traditional territories from which First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples have been displaced. We recognize that we are all treaty people and seek to work towards redressing the injustices from which settlers of this land have benefited.
Thank you, Jen. Next, I invite ACTRA National Vice President Keith Martin Gordey and Jen to read ACTRA's equality statement.
Union solidarity is based on the principle that all union members are equal. Mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding are our goals. We embrace an open and inclusive environment and encourage respectful behavior that affirms the dignity of all individuals.
We neither condone nor tolerate behavior that undermines the dignity or self-esteem of any individual or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment.
Discriminatory speech or conduct based on gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, disability, age, class, language, religion, ethnic origin, membership, region, or work category, or family status hurts and divides us.
Discrimination can take the form of harassment, defined as using real or perceived power to abuse, devalue, or humiliate.
Discrimination and harassment weaken our solidarity, reducing our capacity to work together on shared concerns such as decent wages, safe working conditions, and justice for all.
ACTRA's constitution, bylaws, practices, and collective agreements reflect our commitment to equality and respect. Complaints of harassment and discrimination are taken seriously by ACTRA and should be directed to the president or their designate. All will be investigated, and those substantiated will result in action by the union.
ACTRA activities are to be harassment-free zones where our members' dignity and equality are respected.
Thank you, Keith and Jen. Jen, and if you missed it, she is the chair of ACTRA National's Women Committee. I'm going to hand it over to you to please tell us about ACTRA's Woman of the Year honor.
Thank you, Eleanor. Our celebration of women is truly important. ACTRA proudly celebrates the achievements of women within our union by recognizing a member as Woman of the Year for their contribution to advance women within ACTRA and the recorded media industry, and for their advocacy and volunteer work within society. The first ACTRA National Woman of the Year Award was presented in 2010 to Shirley Douglas. Since then, it has been awarded to Tantu Cardinal, Sandy Ross, Mary Walsh, Jean Freeman, Amanda Tapping, Catherine Joelle McKinnon, Tina Keeper, Rita Shelton Deverell, who is with us here today, Noreen Golfman, Sarah Polly, and Andrea Menard. Today, Juanita Peters joins our prestigious list as ACTRA's 2022 National Woman of the Year.
Yay!
Congratulations, Juanita. It is an honor for us to celebrate you today.
Yes, congratulations, Juanita. Thank you for that, Jen. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's celebration, Mariah Inger. Mariah Inger has been an actor for over 30 years. She works in film, TV, voice, radio, and theater. She currently plays Rhoda on the TV hit series Transplant She's also a director, script consultant, creator, teacher, and she's a mentor to emerging marginalized artists. Mariah is an ACTRA Montreal Council member and the chair of ACTRA National's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee, and a good friend. Mariah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, love. Hi, everyone. Look at where we are today. Yeah. Yes, this is a beautiful moment. It is a pleasure to be taking part in this special virtual ACTRA event. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, today we are proud to honor Juanita Peters as an ACTRA National 2022 Woman of the Year. Yes, congratulations, ladies. Juanita Peters is a Nova Scotian who lives in Dartmouth. She has an extensive body of work as a performer, director, writer, journalist, documentarian. I'm sure the list can go on and on. In the 80s and 90s, Juanita began her career as a reporter and an anchor at CBC News. She hosted 4 seasons of CBC documentary series called Dockside. She's been an ACTRA member for 20 years, performing in over 30 films and television series, including Sex and Violence, Forgive Me, Splinters, Hobo, With a Shotgun, Cloudburst, and an Emmy-nominated Homeless to Harvard. Juanita's directing credits include the CBC television series Digstown and Studio Black. She recently directed her first feature film, 837 Rebirth. Congratulations, man. Juanita is a founding member of the Atlantic Women in Film and Television and of Nova Multifest, Atlantic's Canada's newest multicultural festival. In recent years, she has worked for Council on African Canadian Education, and also as knowledge lead for the Home for Colored Children Restorative Inquiry. Juanita is today sharing her spotlight with roundtable of women who inspire her. So we've got a whole thing going on today, yo. So I would like to just bring our beautiful winner, Juanita Peters, to the floor. Are you ready to introduce the panelists with me, my dear?
Mariah, I'm excited. This is so awesome. Just to have us all in this one space, I'm looking forward to this, and I hope everyone who is online enjoys it as much as I already am. So, yeah. So should I start with making a first introduction?
Oh, I'm going to introduce somebody for you here.
All right.
To take it over. So like Juanita, these women are top. Okay, they are all multi-talented, incredible, beautiful, fantastic humans. Joining us, we first have Dr. Rita Shelton Deverell, has been an ACTRA member since 1974.
Wow.
This year, she received a Governor General's Performing Arts Award for Lifetime Artistic Achievement in Broadcasting. Yes, she has. Rita coordinated ACTRA's earliest study on diversity, Equal Opportunities to Perform, in 1987. She served on the ACTRA Saskatchewan Branch Council and National Executive in the 1970s and the 80s. Rita was appointed the Order of Canada in 2005 and named ACTRA National Woman of the Year in 2018. Take it away.
God, hold on a second. Excuse me, you guys.
Juanita, are you there?
Yeah. So would you like me to introduce the next one?
No, you
Just talk about Rita. Let me just talk about Rita for a minute. So I really don't even know when I first actually met Rita Deverell, but she came on my radar hosting Vision TV. And I thought, who is this individual? She was so assured and entertaining, and she was everything. So many years later, I did meet Rita Deverell, and she exceeded, everything that I had seen in that moment. Rita, as Mariah has said, has such a kettle of knowledge. and not just as an artist, but as a deep thinker, and a deep thinker who thinks not just about the arts, but the people first, and how do we bring these conversations to the people who need to speak, who don't often get a voice. And that's one of the things I've always loved about Rita Deverell, is always can see the problem and then try to fix it, and has done that in so many different arenas.
Well, we are so happy to have you here with us, Rita. We can't wait to get into a conversation with you on board. So I have this other beautiful woman to introduce. We have Angelica Lisk-Hann. Has been performing stunt for almost 25 years, working for folks such as Amazon, Fox, Netflix, NBC, Universal, CBC, Disney, and Lifetime, to name a few. Angelica has stunt coordinated over 100 films and television projects. She's stunt performed in over 150 films and television productions, and she's acted in over 40 films and television. She has served as chair of ACTRA Toronto Stunt Committee, as an ACTRA National Stunt Committee member, and was the chair of ACTRA National Diversity Committee. Angelica is also a SAG and AFTRA member and of DGC member. She is the first Black female second unit director for stunts. You, Angelica, go ahead, Juanita. What do you have to say?
Angelica. Again, here's somebody who isn't following what would be the traditional paths in any way, whether it's in the arts, as acting. The Angelicas of the world don't often get noticed. They come in, they do such a dangerous job, and a job that is very taxing mentally, physically, and so I'm just so happy to have Angelica with us, because Angelica is not only doing the work, but teaching others how to do the work safely, properly, and showing us what all the aspects of being a stunt performer is, what it involves. And I think as a mother, Angelica, I hope we get into the conversation of what your family felt when they saw, your chosen profession and how you got there. Because it's not an easy task. It's not as glamorous when you're doing it. And so I'm just so pleased to have you with us, Angelica.
Yeah, and I would like to also say that as a woman who not only was a single mom, but also who spent many, many years in my career mentoring, I want to make sure that everybody knows that she also mentors new talents and advocates for, the industry to provide more training and all that, which I think is essential for us to move forward in the decades to come. So, fantastic. Next, we have Rae Dawn Chong. Has been starring in movies and TV series since she was 12. She's garnered a Genie Award in 1981 for her performance in Quest for Fire, and has since starred in many classic movies. She played Squeak in Steven Spielberg's The Color Purple, one of my favorites ever. Rae Dawn has played Lewis's mother in The Interview with a Vampire on AMC, starred in writer, director Skinner Myers' The Sleeping Negro, and starred in the thriller The Mistress, which this year won Best Feature Film Jury Prize at the Los Angeles International Film Festival. Congratulations.
Thank you, Hart. Thank you.
Juanita, go ahead.
Look, Rae Dawn Chong, Commando, The Color Purple, I could go on and on and on. But Rae Dawn Chong, when I first saw you on the screen, you inspired me in so many different ways. You did the untraditional thing for a beautiful Black actor. Your wit and you're so funny in a sort of underscored way, and you just kept going. And there was no role that seemed to be beyond you. So you know, these are the things that for me as an aspiring artist, as an actor, as a writer, Rae Dawn Chong, I can't even tell you how many times I actually wrote things and thought about you as I was writing, as the character that you might play, or just the very persona that you put out. And also, you know, Rae Dawn Chong tells it like it is. So this is, you know, one of the pieces of our industry that's very difficult to do. Everyone's always afraid they might not get that next gig, or somebody might misinterpret. But I think when you're honest, that's all that matters. And so I am so thrilled to have you here with us today, Rae Dawn Chong.
Is that a nice way of saying I have a big mouth?
You have a mouth that speaks.
I definitely roar. I'm a roarer.
That's right. I love
you
it.
have to be in this business. Well, I want to welcome Angelica and Rita also. Turn on your mics. You know, this is just such a beautiful thing. And honestly, Juanita Peters, like, how generous are you? This is your award, and you just are so in love with, you know, sharing these moments and recognizing these women. And I think that's incredible. And I just want to give you a big, you know, congrats and thank you for your beauty and your generosity and your grace, because it's amazing. And of course, these women are our partners in crime. This is why we do this, and this is how we survive. So I wanted to ask you guys this. This is actually one of Juanita's questions, but I loved it. I thought it would be fun to start. What made all of you say, and we'll start with you, Juanita, but what made you all say, I can do this or I can't do this?
Well, if we're starting with me, the reason why I asked that question is because I didn't know there was a this. Let me just say that.
What does that mean? What do you
what
mean?
that means is that I never intended to do the things that I'm doing. I grew up writing little skits because I could. It was fun. I had all my family, my cousins, my friends, you know, playing roles in these things. And I just did it for fun. I didn't know that there was a real, never even thought of it in terms of a career. And so I have to say that everything that I've done in life, I've really come upon quite by accident, or that somebody else saw me doing something and said, hey, would you come and do this for us? My first job in performance was someone had seen a show, a one-woman show that I had done. By this time in life, my family had gone off to do other things, my sister and my brother, and so I wound up playing all the parts myself at this community center event. And someone invited me to come and audition for a commercial, a Burger King commercial. And I did audition for it. It was for a local radio station. And because I'm now introduced to these writers, they started calling me more and more. And I would go in, I would voice commercials for them. I think I was 18. And all of a sudden one day, a job opens up in the newsroom. I didn't know anything about what to do in that newsroom, but they needed somebody to clean carts and carry whatever. And I said, I can do that, right? I didn't even know what it was, but I figured if someone showed me, you know, I could learn. So, but it's kind of been like that for me all the way along, is, you know, just being in a place or doing something and somebody liking it.
Interesting. Rita, do you have anything to share about when you thought, you said to yourself, I can make it, or I can't do this, or?
I have always known there was a this, and I am absolutely in awe of all of you because of how long and how successfully you have been doing this. I'll leave the amazing Juanita Peters for last. Yesterday, I was trying to make my New Year's resolutions. So for Angelica, I put down that I needed to walk more. So I am in awe of anyone who is a stunt coordinator. I'm just talking about walking. Mariah and Rae Dawn, the this that is acting, I had to stop doing because of the this that is discrimination. Luckily, and now we come to Juanita, I fell into broadcasting, which allowed me to do things, to get things done, to get this done. And as you've all heard from Juanita, her amazing generosity, what's linking everything is that when she's doing this, she is always including other people. And that is such a marvelously generous thing. And thank you for including me. Now, maybe much like you or not much like you, I grew up in the US South in Houston, Texas, pre the civil rights movement. So the first time I was ever impressed by a play was at my all-Black community center, where there was an all-Black production of Antigone. And it never dawned on me that a bunch of Black people doing a Greek play was a problem. And for that gift, I am deeply grateful. And Juanita has made lots of those possibilities possible for people, including me, as the world has proceeded. So I've always known there was a this. Sometimes there have been roadblocks to the this, and I had to go in a different direction. And that was a good thing.
I'm very impressed by all that. And it's, I think people, you know, unless you're a woman of color, I mean, and I say specifically women, because let's face it, we're already at the bottom in this industry. Add color to it, we've got a whole other degree. But like, there's been, yes, many iterations of this business, you know, things have been, the pendulum has been moving slowly of more acceptance. But the reality is I'm almost 50 and I'm still dealing with the same crap you guys were dealing with 40 years ago, same crap 20 years ago. You know, we're just having conversations now that we weren't even allowed to have 5 years ago. So it's, you know, there's a lot of discrimination still. So I'm just empowered and in love with all of you women that you just kept going and still created this beautiful, magical career, you know, like it's huge, and we should be very, I'm pretty impressed. Rae, Dawn, do you have anything to add to this?
I'm new to everyone, so I'm impressed and in love with all of you in this moment. So thank you for including me in this beautiful circle. Yeah, it has been an extremely colorful, painful, at times torturous journey, isolating in some respects, and then inclusive in others. I grew up between Los Angeles and Vancouver Island. And my racial ethnic awareness, I was late to the party. I didn't really wake up about what I was and what I represented until I was in my early or late 30s, late 20s, early 30s. So I was kind of late to the party, but not because I didn't, sorry, my pit bull's a little bit spoiled, but I didn't understand what it is that I represented. I didn't, I will be honest about that. Hold on just a second. Hey, you gotta be quiet here. And I'm just going to admit that. And I feel a little bit of pain around it because it's like I grew up in a sort of, I grew up in a very fractured family, and that's not an excuse, but I didn't know what I was. I just knew that I loved performing. I was a performer. Stop. I was a performer, and it was just joyous for me to sing and to do it. And then I started working as a kid, you know, so I didn't know, and maybe that's a good thing. I didn't know there was a roadblock. I'm sorry, I just want to kill my pit bull. I didn't know there was a roadblock. I didn't know. I just worked and I hustled. It wasn't until I was in my late 20s that I realized, oh, there's a thing here and it's nasty. And I was awakened up to that by Spike Lee, who I don't like, but I do think is talented. And he was like, Rae Dawn Chong doesn't represent the sisterhood. And then all of a sudden I realized, what representation? And then I realized, oh, there's a thing going on. And then I woke up, and then of course I mean, I knew about Angela Davis, but I didn't put it into my story. I was so late to the cause. I should have started when I was earlier, but maybe I wouldn't have been as successful. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So ignorance is bliss until ignorance is ignorance and it's annoying. And then I found, and I found Nikki Giovanni. And I remember in 2007, she said, I watched her and she talked about Bill Cosby. And she said, something really bad's going to come out about Bill Cosby. And it made me think, who is this wonderful poet, Nikki Giovanni? And then I started reading her work. And then I started reading, of course, I read James Baldwin. And then I read Frederick Douglass, and I started getting educated. And I started getting the kind of education that I needed. And then, of course, Hannah Jones and the 1619 Project, but I had already known a lot of that stuff. So when you wake up to what color you are and what you represent, and then I was, of course, adopted by the Haida Kwakiutl tribe up in the west coast of Vancouver. I was taken into the family, the Hunts. And that was important to me. And then I learned about the West Coast, the First Nations, the Indigenous. And then I found out I'm a 7% Asanabe, and I was like, Jesus. Anyway, I'm late to this party, and I feel like I'm sorry. I feel like all the things that I've gotten the gift to do is because of a joy of acting, a joy of performing, a joy of sharing the thing that makes us magical. And then on top of that, I get to be in a community with people like you, Juanita, who are leaders and givers. And then the fact that I can represent is even like, it's like the cherry. And the fact that we are still struggling being with misogyny and ageism and all the things, all the isms, I'm here for the fight. And I feel blessed, and I feel lucky to be included. So thank you. And I apologize if I'm late to this party.
Angelica, your story must be, quite, I mean, I just want to hear your story. But like, when did you know you could do this? Especially, this industry, I struggle. It took me 25 years to get to the point where I stopped being grateful for my little nugget or my little piece of the pie, that language that I was like, you're working, Mariah, so shut up and be happy. I went through that for many years, and then I just got real angry. So that's where I'm at and realized.
That's really, to me, that's painful. That I've had
for
people.
Me, it was a strength. It was not a pain. It was, I'm actually like the happiest, super joyful human, but I needed anger to understand that I had been swallowing a lot, and now I was choking, and then I got rid of that. Now I'm just happy because I've earned my space. But
what I wanted to just say, though, is that I've had producers say to me, Rae Dawn, you're working, shut up.
Yes.
And I remember I didn't understand how incredibly racist it was.
Yes. And it's always like that, always and continuous. Angelica, what was it like for you? But also,
stunts harder. The stunt world is worse.
Male-dominated world.
And they're all cowboys. It's gross. Sorry.
So it's first of all, thank you so much, Juanita, for having me and wanting to include me. That's, just amazing. And congratulations to you. And it's so lovely to sit here and be with you all. Rita, I followed Rita for a long time and seen her around the halls and here and there. And I obviously with Rae and Juanita as well. Look, I was my mom is Dutch and my father is African-American, and they met in the 60s. He was a professional football player up here to play, and she was doing her modeling thing in Toronto. She came from a very small town called Trenton, Ontario. So they got together and, saw each other, these polar opposites of where they're both from. And it was just this clash, right? And then I was coming. And guess what? In 1968, it still was not cool to do that in Toronto. So they figured that out, and they went their separate ways. So the plan was, we'll bring this child, not quite sure what's going on with her, but we're going to bring her back to this really small town. That's the best thing we're going to do. That's going to be great. So it's me and God love my mother. It's myself, my very blonde-haired, green-eyed Dutch mother, and my Dutch grandmother, and my very Canadian grandfather. And there I was in the small town, and everyone was like, driving by the house going, what in the world is in that house? Because there was nothing. There was no one. There's no one of color. We had, our Native brothers and sisters stayed away, and there was no Asians. There was no Indian. There was just me. So, I was had to find my way pretty quick and figure it out. So as Rae was saying, I didn't really know what really was happening. I just knew that some people were like, oh my God, this shiny thing. Wow, amazing. Come here. And other people were like dropping the N-bombs and saying the things. And I had no idea what was going on. I'm just like, why don't I look like the rest of these people in my house? With my body type and, our special muscles that we get through birth, I found out pretty quick that I was really, really good at sports, every sport. And I found out if I did every sport and I won every damn thing, that some people changed the way that they addressed me. First, it was a certain thing. Then it was like, well, she's winning all this shit for our town. Yeah, she's in the newspaper. Wow, let's get on the train. Look at this chick. She's amazing. So I was getting, an easy bake oven for Christmas. And I was also getting a Evel Knievel motorcycle, right? So I would take the easy bake oven, turn it outside, put candles with fire, and then I would like glue or tape like matches to Evel Knievel and I'd let it go over. And everyone's like, don't you want to bake a cake? I'm like, no, I don't. So I was always kind of just doing that thing, jumping off the bridges and getting on the motorcycle and snowboarding, doing the things that the girls didn't do here in Toronto when I moved. So I think it was an easy kind of segue into what I'm doing now. But the funny thing is, when did I know? I was always dancing and singing and doing gymnastics and things for every party we had in the house, right? Then one day I could remember, I used to use Howard Cosell as he was my guy. I don't know if you guys know Howard Cosell. He was
we all know him. We're all
right. Great. And he was actually, when you think about it, he's very sexist, but he was a very like, oh, this is Howard Cosell. We're doing these sports. This is really cool. This guy's going to go over here and do this. So I did his voice and I had a tape player and I went around interviewing cats and squeezing them to make them talk. It gets diabolical, but a lot of the things I did, I'd interview people in the town. And then one day my grandfather yells, he screams at me. He's like, Angela, because I'm called Angela. Get your ass down here. I run downstairs and he points at the TV and I'm like, oh, it was Oprah Winfrey. And there she was. It was skinny Oprah with the nice hair and the microphone. And she was interviewing some KKK guys or whatever. And he looks at me and he goes, you don't have to be Howard Cosell anymore.
Oh.
And it just went, pooh. I never saw anyone black. I didn't see a female on TV that was of color. Everyone didn't look like me. So why would I think I could do that? Although I was told by my family, can do whatever you want. Anyway, I ran with that. Sports. I was going to go train for the Olympics track and field. So I'm moving closer to the city, seeing more people of color, seeing more people that look like me, going, okay, I think I'm going to be all right. So fell into that. And just like Juanita, I was breakdancing in Yorkville on the corner. And some lady was like, hey, do you want to be in a milk commercial? Like, let's do it. I'm not going to college. Mom says, get a job. And then it just went from there. Started acting, ended up on Dave Chappelle's Half Baked. That's where I met a stunt coordinator. Said, can any of you girls do anything other than act? I'm like, I can. What do you need? Had to fall down with Dave Chappelle, and then I started doing stunts. And then one day I was on set of something I was doubling, and one of my stunt coordinators I worked for said, hey, do you want to cover today? Like, cover do what? It'll be the stunt coordinator. I have to go to the other unit. I was like, yeah, sure. It was just normal and very natural. I never looked to be a stunt performer. I wasn't looking to be a stunt coordinator. This industry is going to tell you what it wants from you.
That's true.
I wanted to have my own show called Angelica. Didn't happen. I was sad. But you let it go and you get pushed into where you're supposed to be. And I think that's one of the most important things I tell people. And they go, how do you started out, you train really hard. You're going to be pushed into what this industry wants from you. So, you're all multifaceted folks. You can all write, you can sing, you can like all these things. I think that's one of the main things. Talent and drive is a quintessential recipe for success. If you have talent without drive, you might not get there. If you have drive, but you really don't have the talent, you might not get there. If you can marry that talent and that drive, you can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. And yeah, Rae, surrounded by a lot of those guys still, at 53 years of age, you know, and from time to time still bullied a little bit here and there, but
They
it's
can't
it's
help
few,
it. They can't help it.
it's
They're
it's
just,
it's
ugh.
it's few and far between in the support that I have and the friends that I have and the people that I've met, you know, getting into directing now, second unit, and, you know, just having the support. There's no place I'd rather be. And just being here with you guys too. I said earlier before we got on this, before we went live to everyone, like what an honor and a privilege. Like we're sitting here talking about our stories. Like we never got to do that before. You know,
That's true.
Rita didn't get to do that. Juanita didn't get to do it. Rae didn't get to do that. We didn't get to do this before, and now we are, and people care. And it's just great. And I'm just happy to be included. And I just want to work and try to inspire other people and let them know you can do this. If I can do this, anybody can do it. I was jumping over easy bake ovens with a motorcycle. It's big afro. I'm here. So if I can get here,
That
the
is,
rest of the girls
I
can
love
get
the
here too.
visual. I love the
me too.
visual.
I'm like seeing the visual.
Easy
Rita,
bake oven.
do you feel, Rita, that enough? I mean, you know, you've been here, you've been doing this longer than some of us. How do you feel? Have you seen change? Are we okay? Do we have more to go? Like, how do you feel about the industry?
Oh, there's always more to do. A little bit about Juanita. The first time I made a program about Africville, I think was 1978. And it was a program for CBC. And I didn't know anything about Africville before I made this program. And I thought, as I frequently did when I made a program about something, that solved the problem. I've made this program about Africville. It's on national television. End of story. And then I get the wonderful honor of moving to Halifax in 2009 to be a chair of women's studies at Mount St. Vincent University. And I'm there for 3 years. And while I'm there, the Atlantic Film Festival, in a few weeks after my arrival, happens. And Juanita has got a documentary in the festival about Africville. So this is 2009. My 1978 program obviously didn't solve the problem. And she's walking up and down the line to the theater, which I am in. And she is thanking every person in the line for being there. And she includes me in this. And I don't think she knew that I was in Halifax to stay for a few years. But the interesting thing is, at least for part of the problem, or let's say 80% of the problem of Africville, her documentary did solve. And she's the director of the new museum. And that's that's progress. When you say, yes, we've gotten someplace. And even though I talked about roadblocks, I don't regret any of those roadblocks because they caused me to find out I had other talents. If it had just been easy for me to sail along. Now, I don't say that to say, thank the goddess for roadblocks. That's not what I'm saying. But I literally did not know that I had a talent for management, that I had a talent for production, that I could help to build a television network that could hire people who looked like me. I wouldn't have known any of that if I hadn't encountered roadblocks. So yes, we've gotten somewhere, but there's always more to do. I've been participating during the lockdown in a group of older women professional writer actors called ACT3. And we've all been writing little scenes, which we read to each other on Zoom. And actually, that's what my scene is about, that you don't ever get to a place where you can just stop, because there's always another rung of some kind, that if you can pay your bills most days and your health is reasonable, there's something you've been called here to do, and you have to keep doing it. So yeah, progress, but not nirvana.
No. Juanita, what do you have to say towards
I
all-
love that. Rita, you're so right. The reality is, I think some things are timing, and some things are getting to the right ears. The ears that, and another part of it is language, having the right language to describe and explain things to the unwanted ears. And you know, when I think about progress, I think about everything from a whole world perspective. And 5 years ago, I made a commentary that in that week I had sat at 3 executive meetings where all the CEOs were females. Would never have happened 25 years ago. Never, never, never. And also, I walked into an engineering class at Dalhousie University, where the makeup of that class was almost equal ratio, male to female. Again, you know, to me, this is progress. And so I look for it, not just in this space, but in other spaces where people are trying to move in a direction, trying to be their whole selves, trying to be able to live their whole lives. You know, in our industry, there has been movement. Is it big enough, fast enough? No, but there is movement. And so just in terms of here we are today talking about just women, you know, in the industry. And we could probably do this all year long, not once a year. So, you know, women in film and television, you know, has contributed to being able to do that, have dialogue, you know, on a monthly basis, you know, in some respect. So these things they are progress. But the other thing I want to say is I am so excited when I hear the new generation, because the new generation is trained very differently. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to exclude people's point of view or people from a conversation when you don't live near them, you don't know anything about them, you're not exposed to other people and other ideas. And that has changed quite rapidly. Just in the last 15, 20 years. So when I get engineers or historians in the museum, or, you know, I look at, you know, who's in this group, where are they coming from? You know, what is the information that they have? What do they think they know? and what are they able to receive? It is changing. It's not quick enough. It'll never be quick enough for my lifetime. But you know, we've got the Angelicas and you know, so Angelica, you say you're 50, you're still, for us, younger. Is that right, Angelica? You're 50?
54 in February.
Woo, girl.
You're still a baby.
That's what I was saying. 53. What are you talking about?
Wow.
Baby.
Wow.
That's
It's amazing.
61.
No, you're not Rae Dawn Chong.
Rae Dawn Chong. Oh,
come
my
on.
God. Like, you know, we've lived through something, folks, but it was all worth it. It was all worth it. And so
Go on,
Juanita. Well, Juanita, did you see Jacinda Ardern, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, take down the reporter?
yeah.
Isn't that satisfying?
Oh my God. I wanted to like just leap over buildings.
You just wanted to kiss her and just say,
so beautiful.
thank you.
Yeah,
Did
exactly.
you see it, Rita?
No, I didn't see this.
Tell
So
her,
what's the
Juanita.
incident?
Tell her. It's Juanita, you
Tell it,
explain
Rae.
that one.
You tell it.
Okay.
Somebody
report-
tell me.
All right. So there's two. Here's the scene. Jacinda Ardern, who is the Prime Minister of New Zealand, is sitting at a podium. Next to her is the Prime Minister of Finland. I don't know her name, but she's very pretty. I think even a little younger than Jacinda. And they're just being prime ministers and talking. And a young male reporter asks them if, he says, Prime Minister, you and the Prime Minister of Finland, are you guys good friends because you're female? And do you talk together about female things? Is this like a really easy thing for you? And Jacinda, it was the best response. She just took a moment. She said, well, since we're both prime ministers, we discuss the commerce of our countries because Finland is a big trader with New Zealand. And she rips through a list of numbers of what the trade capacity is between the two countries. And then she talks very gently about other important prime ministerial items. And basically she schools him by virtue of just saying, I just want to add that you would never ask a male prime minister if he and, Macron have like boy things to talk about.
Yeah.
And it was in front of the world.
Yeah, it was,
Which
for
is
me, it was
beautiful.
almost like an Obama moment. You know how people would try to Obama on, and he was just always so cool and so smooth and answered the questions in such a professional way that it was embarrassing.
It was the most misogynist, ageist,
yeah,
just the most uneducated. It was the typical cisgendered white colonial boy response to two gorgeous women who happened to be prime ministers speaking.
And I
Angelica?
think, yeah,
It
the hardest part.
It was as if Tucker Carlson was naked. It was so enjoyable.
That's absolutely wonderful. And the problem is you have to get to be the prime minister to have that moment. And all the steps to getting to that are rather complicated. So it's wonderful that those two women were there.
It was a teaching moment, though. It was one of those things.
Yeah.
She didn't have to say one word about how stupid he was. But it really sums up the world.
Mariah mentioned that in my introduction that I did the first diversity study for ACTRA. An interesting thing happened with that study. There was lots of news coverage. It was called Equal Opportunities to Perform. And there was lots of news coverage when ACTRA released the study. And Barbara Amiel wrote a full-page column against the study, and it said some amazing things. Now we're talking the 80s. She said that she was an immigrant like me, and if I had worked as hard as she did, I too would be a national columnist. That was one thing. The other thing, though, is she called me a radical Black feminist, and no one had ever said that before, and I was absolutely delighted that she had noticed, and I blew up the column and put it on my office door. And the third thing that she said was, at the rate I was going, being a radical Black feminist, I would leave the University of Regina and I would wind up at York University that was full of all of these radicals, and I would find my true home. Now, there's been lots of progress since she wrote all of that, but she did me and ACTRA a huge favor by devoting a full page to how negative this study was. So,
So what you're saying is like the fact that, first of all, I'm looking at a photograph of her and I remember her because she's Conrad Black's wife. And
yes.
so she's basically a misogynist pig. I'm going to say it.
But what I'm also saying,
A
though,
product
is
of it.
to have the Obama moment, you have to get to be president, and to have the prime minister's moment, you have to get to be prime minister.
Yeah.
And so it's wonderful when you've got enough airtime to make these splendid points.
Yeah, absolutely. Angelica, you wanted to say stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I think the first thing is that I'm going to get t-shirts made that say radical Black feminist.
Yes.
And I think we're going to have a website and sell them, and we're going to donate all the proceeds to
Radical Black feminists.
the radical Black feminists. Ba-dum-bum. Yes, to what Rita was saying. So here's the thing. When, and I go through this time to time, you get yourself in a position where you have a bit of a platform and you ask questions and do interviews or whatever it is, and you're being asked these things. People purposely try to throw you off your game, because if they can say something that's a bit crazy and then you go, did you just say this? Then they go, look, see? And you don't want to be that look, see. They want to try to make you that angry Black woman or Black man or just woman or whatever it is. So you must control, and God, it's hard. And you smile and you come up with something smart and you move on and you go forward. Then you walk away and you curse in the washroom or you cry, do whatever you got to do, but you don't let them see it. Saying, when you get to that point, the amount of BS that these women went through, I'm sure, to get to being prime ministers and doing all these things, I can't even imagine their just their control. I can remember when I started stunt coordinating and I'd turn around and tell somebody to just go whatever, and because it's ridiculous the way that they try to take you out of your thing. So if you can just focus and control and try not to do it, but it's almost like every day is a test. And you have to really choose how you react. And it's a shame that you have to do that.
It is
but
the
you
reality.
do.
It
But
is a
you
reality.
do.
And more women need to stand up into leadership. I think it's one of the things that those women have
Yeah.
taught us, is that leadership's important.
Well,
I mean,
you have to be at the table to be able to change it, right? Like, we have to be in those positions. That's just reality. But also, the control, like I just learned through my career, I had to be better. That was just the reality. I had to be good. I had to, what I was talking about, I had to be in those rooms. I had to have those conversations. And if I wasn't doing it, then nobody, you know what I mean? Like, you have to put yourself in the game, right, Juanita?
Right. And, I'm always like applauding when women, speak so openly and have those great comebacks, Rae Dawn, because that's not me. I don't think that quick. I go home and then think, man, what I should have said.
When you send the email
later,
them.
yeah, I think of all the things that I should have did and said and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that there has to be, we have to be bringing women into these conversations, into these circles, into these areas where we build women up and show them, support people to become leaders, because that's the thing that we don't have, and we need it. We need support from other women and other men and everybody. And so, women leadership, some things in politics, women leadership in business, women leadership in all areas. We need that kind of support, and we need to be, supporting each other to do that. Yeah,
There's also an inner
we don't get anywhere alone.
No, but I also feel like one of the struggles that we've had in our communities, and I could say specifically women, but I would specifically say, in the Black communities, one of the things that has been, I deal with this in mentoring a lot, is we've spent, decades and decades and decades and decades of all fighting for one little piece in the pie. And that's breeded a mentality of like, pull you down so I can get up, because there's not enough. We've been taught for so long, there's not enough to go around. There's one piece. So you all have to fight each other to get the one piece,
Yeah, and I always think that, I always think in terms of, it's not a piece of pie. I want to teach you to make your own pie.
Yes. We're just starting that
1,000%. Sorry, 1,000%. I mean, especially in our industry in stunts, a lot of stunt coordinators do not want to train anyone else. They want to wait till they get much older because they don't want to, what if somebody else gets the show that I wanted? I don't look at it that way. This is our industry. This is our whole community.
That's
Let's
called
teach
scarcity.
how to be a stunt coordinator and how to do it properly and how to, I'm teaching people how to do the breakdowns, how to do the budgets, the things that you don't see on set. They don't know what to do. A lot of them can fight and do whatever, but they don't know how to do that. No one is teaching them. So I'm not concerned about if I teach Rae how to be a stunt coordinator, that Ray's going to take a show from me. If Rae gets a show that we were both up for and I taught her how to do that, we're going to have champagne about it because that's what my job, that's what I want to do. That is what I want to do.
I would give you a shot.
You're so sweet. We would just work together, but that's the other thing about the mentoring and trying to get there. In our business, we have some females that are there, but I'm the only one of color that's there. So
I will tell you something now. I'll tell you something that I've learned is that it's all about education. We're talking about things about education. When people realize that feminism is not a dirty word, that in fact, it's an empowering word, that, that being a courtesan, which is what I would say Barbara Emile was a courtesan, is one choice and it's her choice. But then we were blessed with having to walk the bleeding edge of ethnicity and feminism. I'm a feminist. I've always been a feminist, but we were blessed with so much resistance that it's made us really strong. We're the most, abused, the most, assaulted, we're the most neglected. Well, what does that make? That makes for empowerment, that makes for resilience, and it makes for creativity.
How diamonds are made, right? So there
exactly.
You go.
And same with the lotus, out of the mud. But here's the thing. Diversity empowers everybody. It's not just those of us that are getting jobs. It empowers everybody. It makes movies more interesting. It makes characterization of characters richer. People leave a film and they realize, why do I feel good? Like I've had a good meal because they watched a project that fed their soul. And what usually feeds us is diversity because we like spices.
Yeah. And also diversity is actually the real truth of our worlds. Like very little of us live actually, and maybe you grew
homogeneous
up in
world
and whatever, but at the end of the day, the whole point, I'm half Norwegian, I'm half Bayesian. I sat in those rooms with half white family. It doesn't matter if you were the only Black kid in the hood, you were already diverse within your own circles, it's part of who we are. Juanita, what was it like for you in the world of broadcasting and Nova Scotia? Like you also built a lot.
I want to go to Nova Scotia. It's the one place I've never gone.
Come on
I
down.
want to come, Juanita. I'm so excited to meet you because
you have to go
down
to
anytime but February. Don't come in February or March. You could get stuck here.
Somebody in your family somewhere down the line. There's got to be something.
It's one of my most favorite places to work, and I sadly, Juanita, when you were directing on Diggstown, I wasn't on that show yet, so we missed each other.
You did this year? Did you do this year?
I did. No, 2 years ago. I came out to coordinate it, and I did some acting on it. And everyone. Oh, did you?
Which is close to Nova Scotia.
Wow, that's pretty close.
What was it like for you, Juanita? Like being small town and moving up, as a woman of color, building, like being a founder of festivals. Like, what was that like in those circles for you?
Well, I mean, I started in 80, 81, and it was an all male dominated, industry. It was all men. And so, you're, how should I say, for me, again, because I wasn't trained like other people, I didn't really know what the possibilities could be for me. But I just did what I did. And I can remember having so much fun with a couple colleagues I was working in radio, a job came up in television, and I was having so much fun working with these two colleagues of mine. We would go into the studio at night and practice, and we could both, all audition for the job. And the person who I worked with got the job, and I thought, oh, great, blah blah blah. And then it didn't work out for him. And I went back into the studio with another person and that person's wife, and his wife got the job. And I went, okay, well, they don't need me. So I went across the street and applied there, because I was working at this time as a writer for that network. And so I went across the street and pitched my show, and they took it. And I'm so glad. Here's one thing I do want to say. For me, I'm glad that I didn't know that the intentions were what the intentions were at the time, because I might have walked very differently through the world. I might have walked a little more timidly. I might have been suppressed, or depressed, but I didn't know, because I didn't grow up being aware of those issues the way that they percolated in Nova Scotia or in the Maritimes. The other thing I want to talk about just real quickly in terms of, that piece, going back to that piece of the pie and them against us and us against them and the competition. I once had a young male barber say to me, he was talking about trying to get this thing up and running, and he didn't know how to get money to do it. And I talked to him about funding. And 3 years later, he came to me, he saw me in the market, and he said, Juanita, you're the only person who's ever told me that there were other avenues, that there were other opportunities. He said, nobody else would ever tell me this. And he said, they want to do, what do you say, crabs in a barrel and pull people down, and nobody wants to see other people get ahead. And I said to him, by you getting ahead is a benefit to other people. When you get ahead, when you go for funding, the more people who are successful, the more the people who are creating that money say this is a necessity. Yes. We have more people applying for this. We have more people who are qualified, right? And the same with acting. The more people, you bring into the field of acting or filmmaking, hopefully, the people who hold those purse strings say, oh my God, there's a lot of talent here. We need to invest more. I never think of it as coming out and getting less, but adding to, getting more, bringing more to the table.
Angelica?
Yeah, a million percent. And here's the thing, on the stunt side of that. So with diversity and with all of these shows now, it's cool to be Black. We're gonna make all these shows, and it's gonna be all these cool people, all different sizes and shapes and colors, and it's great. And it looks like the real world. And then they're like, where's all the Black stunt doubles? And I was like, oh, okay. So have a seat. Let me explain it to you quickly. Because y'all didn't hire any Black people to do anything other than stunt double. The few Black people that we had on shows for the last 30 years, they couldn't make a living. So they all have jobs. So I'm back to the job. So if you folks would like to, make sure you hire Black men, Black women as stunt safety. Also hire them as a stunt actor. Also have them as a passenger in the car. When it doesn't call for specific, I need 2 white guys in a car. No, it never says that. We need 2 stunt people in a car. Make 1 Black.
I've just noticed that
like.
A lot.
So these people are not available. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, a lot of those producers that are in charge, they're lazy, and they don't know anyone. They don't have a diverse phone book, so they don't know that we're not that different. So I always say to my friends, just ask yourself, are you diverse? Look at your phone book. Do you only hang out with a certain type of person?
Right. But yeah, no, I totally feel that, and it's kind of true. So what a small group of us have been trying to do is to get that word out there. Like, now all the shows are here. Let's start training up more people of color.
100%.
What are we going to do?
Mentoring,
so
right?
to get that training, and it's mentoring.
Yes.
So
and I been for a long time, one of the things that I've always been telling, like, if we support each other, the very basics is that if any of us all audition for the same thing and one of us gets it should be a yay. And also, like, I know that when I audition, my biggest competition is me. I'm either going to
Yep.
nail it or I'm going to fail it. It's
Yep.
that's my work, you know, and it's because after everything else, it's all arbitrary. I wasn't tall enough. I wasn't chubby enough. I wasn't skinny enough. Like, yes, sure. There's all those stereotypicals, but I either do a good audition or I don't. I'm the competition.
How do you guys feel about self-tape? How do you
Oh.
feel about the self-taping?
Oh God. I think
Juanita, how do you feel about it?
I don't like it
think
as much because I do like being in the room with somebody who has context, right? So I do like having someone there to say, can I do that again? And they'll, you know, and getting a little feedback on it. However, self-tape
self-tape
allow
versus
people
self-tape.
to self-tape without having to go somewhere. You know, I know people are getting, you know,
I hate it.
to do more. I like
Hate
being
it.
in the room with somebody. I do like being in the
I
room.
know. I think they abuse it. I think it's abuse. I think we should be paid for it. And I think I really dislike it. I mean, we all have to be good at it. But
I think it's okay if with the ideas of maybe being paid for it, but the truth is that there are kids out there that are getting hired that never would have gotten hired without self-tapes.
No, this is a good thing. And I agree with you on that. And that's what YouTube's for. You can go talent scouting on YouTube, but I still think they should pay us.
Oh, I agree with that one. That's a
I think we
great-
should get $50
I like
for,
to be in the room. I like to be in the room because the idea, when I read something and I give you a couple options, or I have nothing to do with what this director is looking for. This director needs to know I can be directed. I want to come in there because my audition is this character. I want them to know me. I want them to feel who I am as a person
Well, and
when I
that
come in.
counts
Hey,
as
how you
it's
doing? Thanks for having me in. Like, there's a lot to be said with that, right? Yeah, I like that. I want to
Yeah,
go.
and
I
it's
want to
nice
see
for a
people.
director to know if they
tell me
can
to do it a
accept you.
different way. Like, yeah.
I think they should pay us.
I pretty much hate it. On the other hand, it's brought me closer to my adult son, who usually turns out to be my technician. So we've had many wonderful moments in
That's lovely.
self-tapes. But the other problem with listening to me is when I came back to acting at about age 60, I don't take it quite as seriously as I did when I was 20 something. So I'm not anybody whose opinion actually counts, but I hate it.
But I think it's like the reality is our craft is about people. Our craft is about energy and synergy in a room and language and storytelling and all that. That's really hard to do in a box where you feel like there's no connection. That's obvious. But we also, you know, self-taping also became a difference of no industry or industry. Like, you know, it was just an answer to the hell we were in, right? So
There's also this little underlying thing that we touched on a bit. Actually, I was with Eleanor and Keith when we were negotiating the IPA, and we talked about, so some people are going to have a really great background. Some people aren't. Some people are going to be able to afford to have a good camera. Some people will have their phone. Some people are, there was a situation where, you know, the director was like, oh my God, did you see that guy's apartment? Oh, what a terrible place. Or, you know, there's that other socioeconomical part of it, of what do you got going on at your place. So to go in, you're just an actor going in to do the thing. There's no personal attached to it.
yeah, no.
Now you're inside of my home. You see my things, like it just gets a little different. So, I mean,
But this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier, which I believe is something super important, is that when we are, you know, fighting in this battle of, you know, not enough advocacy or there's not enough broadcasters of color, there's not enough stunt women of color, there's not enough, you know, all of this, where mentoring and kind of, you know, understanding becomes a point. You guys were talking about we should get paid for self-tapes. We should get, you know, they should recognize that if training isn't being, you know, we need to do more training.
we're getting there.
Huh?
We're getting there.
We're
We're getting
slowly
there.
doing
I mean,
it.
the training, like I bought a slide car, a stunt car to train the girls.
Well,
You know,
and
like
also,
we're doing our own thing. Like we're
Well,
not
but
waiting
most
for
of
anybody
us
to.
have self-produced. That's my issue, is that most of us got to where we got completely on our own and did it because we didn't have the social economic possibilities of going into the same schools for training, or weren't even accepted, or they weren't even looking at Black women to be in these positions. So
No.
now the conversation with these higher ups, I'm sitting there going, why don't you look at the producer or the writer who's been writing and self-producing for 15 years on her own dime with no help from a union or whatever, and give her project made credits, like start backing it up so you can fill it, because there's a lot of us doing stuff. We just didn't go through the right channels, the same channel.
There is. And I think all of us here in our own right have a way to do something. Every one of us here has the wherewithal, first of all, because you're all such powerful women. You're also all very smart. We can all do more to help those others, and we just need to keep doing that. And it's grassroots shit here, people.
Right.
Each one teach one. If I can grab five people, what are those 5 people going to do? They're all going to do 5 people. They're going to do. We're not going to change it in a year, but guess what? I can start something that's going to change it in 20 years. I may be here or not, but I want to leave a legacy of something. I don't have any kids. I have a cat and a wicked smart husband, but I've got nothing to leave behind. So this is what I'm trying to, leave something. And I owe that to my people. So,
I'm really
Absolutely.
interested in Mariah and hearing from Rita on what it was like, flipping the switch. So, creating, if you build it, or having to build an industry, a network where people who don't get to be seen or heard have a place to be. And I just can't even imagine what sort of pushback there might have been on that, Rita, at the time.
Well, I guess a point that's important to me right now is to recognize your allies and always work with those people. As many of you will know, I'm on the board of directors of the CBC. Now, an interesting thing about that is that many people of color assume that's because I always had a happy life with the CBC. And that's not the case at all. The case is that I filed a discrimination grievance in the 80s through ACTRA against the CBC. But time has moved along, and now at my age, we were talking about age, I'm 77. At my age and stage, people like me go on boards of directors. And I believe in the institution of the CBC, regardless of what happened in the 80s or the 90s or any other time. I believe in the institution. And in a big place like that, you can always find allies. And those are the people you need to concentrate on instead of the others who don't get it. So building Vision TV, I was lucky. I fell through the clouds at a moment when there were some other people who wanted to start a multi-faith television network. And I was pretty much a workaholic and good at learning script and working with few resources. And I fell in with those people. They were all white. Some of them were women, some of them were men, and they were always allies. So I guess I'm really saying if you can cultivate your allies, and Juanita, the reason you're the Woman of the Year is because you make all these opportunities for other people that we've been talking about. And so good on you.
Juanita, how long have you, I mean, it's true. Look at all the things that you've built and created and surrounded yourself. How did that happen? How did you figure that out? When did you start doing that? Give us something.
Mariah, there was no plan. I really mean that, and people don't believe me. There really was no plan. It was, this is what I'm doing right now. You know what? I spun that wheel over there. It didn't go anywhere. It got stuck. So now I'm going to cross the road and try it over here. I'm going to bring this person with me because they, indicated that they might like this. There really was no plan. It was just continuing to look at things that were important. I had a lot of stuff to say. I still have a lot of stuff to say. Sometimes the avenue I think it needs to be doesn't allow me to go down that road. And so I go over here. I make a sidetrack, and as far as long as the story gets told, as long as the work gets done, and as long as you can make an impact somewhere. I remember someone, what are those tests you have? Braxton, what are they called?
The
Rita,
Bechdel
what are they?
test.
No.
Bechdel?
Rita,
Bechdel?
what is it?
Are you
Angelica?
talking about the Bechdel tests? All the different tests that they do about diversity, about female, about
No, these are,
Introvert, extrovert.
yes, Rita, what is that
Yes.
called?
okay.
I've forgotten.
Right, but it's a whole test, and at the end of
Yes.
the day, they kind of analyze
Who's they?
whoever the usually professors or whoever it is that's looking at these, usually scientists, I think, who are looking at your makeup. And if you go,
Sorry,
and
I know what it's called. Jen Paul just said it's called the Myers and Briggs test.
that's it, the Myers and
Thank
Briggs
you,
test.
Jen Paul.
And the
Adore you, Jen
Myers and
Paul.
Briggs, someone did a Myers and Briggs test on me when I was 19 and 20, and it came out exactly the same at 40. And really, which was kind of really astounding, but it said, Juanita Peters is both an introvert and an extrovert. She's an inventor, and there were all these things that I was like, I'm not those things. That's what I'm saying in my 20s. And when they did it again at Banff in my 40s, I could see the correlation of what this test was saying to some extent.
Now you have life lived, right? Now you could actually
You kind of I go, okay, that's what that was referring to. But there was no roadmap. I didn't even know that these things were real or that they were within my reach. I didn't even go to university because I didn't know. I didn't have. My family had. My mother was an invalid, and my father died when I was very young. We didn't have anybody going to university in our household. There was no money. And I can remember thinking I needed to go out and work right away because my family was going to need me to help contribute. And so if I went to university, I spent money and it didn't work out, that would be bad. So I was just constantly thinking about what can I do, out there. And again, I never said no to any opportunity, any door that opened. Sometimes I was put in positions where people thought they were putting me in a deficit situation. And yet I could see things that interested me in that area. I was putting in a basement once, when all the other writers were upstairs. But I was in a basement where all the people who were building sets were, all the designers, all the carpenters. And I'd go in every day and I go, oh, what happened overnight? Oh my gosh. And I'd get them to show me how they made these things, right? I was supposed to be in a deficit situation, but
you made lemonade.
It fed
Yes,
me.
you did.
I'm always, Rae Dawn Chong, I've been making lemonade for a very long time. And I like lemonade, and, not by choice. I wish I didn't have to, but in some cases, you don't even know you're doing it. And the journey has been very much enriched, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it made you who you are. And
Yes.
I think that I think sometimes we get very, oh, so awful what happened to me. God, I can't believe it. Okay, on to that. Yeah, that happened to you. And guess what? You went through it and now you are who you are because of all these things. Like if everything was perfect in our lives, none of us would be here because there's no struggle. There's no pain. There's no, fight. So you're just a nice lady doing your thing. Like you need all this tragedy and all this crap to be strong enough to get to the point where you can be here now and talking about it and maybe helping other people to realize, you know, what their end goal is. But I mean, I don't, you know, I don't wish any of it to be gone. All the things I've seen or learned or had to be a part of, or the way I've been talked to or treated, it's fine. I'm good. I'm here. And you know what they say, success is the best revenge. Success is the best revenge. Keep looking forward. Do your thing. Don't listen. Just go. So
Although
I'm
when
glad
you get
everything
a
happened
chance,
to all of you. You know,
but when you get
good.
a chance to, get in the room, and Rita can speak to this, it is important to drop the hints that they need to be diverse. They need to hire out. They need to consider age as something of an asset instead of a deficit. They need to examine where they're, and I mean they being, usually it's cis white gendered, you know, males who are in leadership. They need to consider reaching across the aisles and consider the LGBTQ plus community. They need to open up leadership so that we can run for the chairs. And we need to, when we're in the room, say, yeah, we need to make a gentle suggestion. It would be really good if this year, wouldn't it be fun? I just say it's all about educating and doing it in a way that they can integrate it without losing face. And, you know, it's like, and make it their idea.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be fun if the heads of studios and networks weren't always the same guy?
Yeah, right.
We're
40
heading
years.
to the end of our time together, my friends. Rita, I'd love to give you a few minutes. We kind of have to start saying our goodbyes here, and wondering if you have something to share to
No questions?
Juanita. No, I think everybody's just kind of really enthralled in the conversation of all your wonderful voices. So, but we're going to be heading off soon. So Rita, could you, I'm sure you want to speak to what was just spoken about, so please go ahead with that. But also if maybe a last word to your friend Juanita before we write off would be fabulous.
Well, I am definitely in the be in the room phase of my life. I take that responsibility rather seriously. So I'm going to actually come back to the CBC board. As you may be aware, in 2017, the government of Canada approved of an independent panel to select CBC directors. And a bunch of well-placed Black people were phoning me saying, you have to put your hat in the ring. And I said, I can't think of anything I would prefer not to do. Whatever happens on the CBC, everybody I know will be mad at me. I said, that's the first reason I don't want to do it. The second reason I don't want to do it is, though it has a very modest honorarium, it's not anything like enough to put up with all this grief. And the third reason is you actually have to swear off production being your main source of income. And that's what I do. But I continue to get this pressure. And so finally, I do throw my hat in the ring. I'm going to tell this very quickly. And a bunch of, I am interviewed by the independent panel for 2.5 hours. A bunch of people are appointed to the CBC board, and none of them are me. And then another bunch of people are appointed, and none of them are me. And more significantly, none of them are Black. I'm in a seminar with the heads of cultural industries. And they start to talk about how they don't make the appointments to their boards, which is true. And I write to Catherine Tate, the president of the CBC, the next day, and I say, I am one of the people who has been approved to be on your board. And you will notice that I haven't been. I am still willing to serve. to her great credit, she phoned me the next day and said, "Can I send your letter to the Minister of Heritage?" And I said, "You certainly can." I said, "But there are no vacancies." She says, "There are always vacancies." So I've been on the board 2 years. And my point is, if Catherine Tate hadn't phoned me and said that, I wouldn't be. So there was somebody else pushing at that moment, and you have to ally yourself with all of the people who
Yeah.
were pushing and take responsibility to be in the room when it's your turn.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Juanita has always done that, in spite of her saying she doesn't have these Obama moments. She
Yeah.
definitely does.
Absolutely, she does. She's here for a reason. Thank you, Rita. Rae Dawn, I would love it if you could say a quick au revoir à notre amie
Well,
Juanita.
thank you so much for including me. Everybody's so interesting and so divine. So thank you. And I've learned a lot, and it's been really nice to meet you. And Juanita, enjoy this year, this honor. You have obviously filled the shoes beautifully. I look forward to more of you in my life. And I'm deeply touched, and I will continue to do what I'm doing, paying it forward and lifting people up.
Thanks for that. Angelica?
There's so many things to say, but I know we have to go, so I'll make this very, very brief. I feel like there's been a huge shift, and I feel like it's that shift that we here have been waiting for a really long time. So I will just say that I'm excited about the future, and I will say that I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing and willing to just go and try to do what I can in my little section of the world to get my girls and my people seen, and to get them trained, and to get them, just to get them going. And Juanita, as Rae said, I'm looking forward to having a little more of you in my life as well.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's just so much to do when we're together. Same with Rita, and same with Rae, and same with you, Mariah. Together, we're unstoppable. We all have our one little piece that we're fighting, but you get the whole squad together and fight, you're gonna kill more people. Let's kill people together. That's what I'm trying to say.
In that Dave Chappelle kind of way. In that Dave Chappelle kind of way.
Juanita, any last words to
I'm
these
just
women,
so
yourself?
thrilled to I look at this as having these folks at my table, in my home, in my world, and I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled that you're in the world doing what you do. You don't know how you have contributed to the growth of women and people in the arts, people of color, and you all have inspired me in ways that I've never been able to tell you until this moment. So thank you so very much, everybody. This has been a thrilling day for me.
Yay.
Well, and we just want you to remember that we're very, very proud of you. We're proud of all the women that came before you and all the women that will be coming after you.
Yeah.
Rita, you were right up there as well. And just you women as who I am moderating this, I just want to say Rae Dawn, Angelique, Rita, Angelica, Rita, and Juanita, you guys are amazing, beautiful, amazing, fantastic human beings. And the fact that we're women and Black just makes us even better. So I'm just so happy to see you all in one place. Thank you, Juanita. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Juanita.
Yeah,
Mariah,
thank you.
you did a wonderful job, sister. Thank you.
Excellent job.
Thank you, Mariah. All right, you guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Don't leave just yet. I just want to thank you all so much. Those were such amazing stories and such a fantastic conversation, so fulfilling and inspiring. And I am hearing a show, Angelica. I mean, this is like a great panel of speakers, and this could be a podcast. We'll listen to it all day. But you've all been paving the way in this new century and listening to all these stories, and you've already been carving out your legacy, and passing on these stories to the younger generation is just so important, so they understand the opportunities that they have ahead of them. And the membership is so privilege to have you as ACTRA members, as your strong voices and your mentorship. And I want to assure you that ACTRA is committed to all these kinds of conversations and to educate the industry to reflect the world that we live in more accurately on our screens. There's a lot of work ahead of us. We know it, but we are working on it. And so I just want to thank you, Mariah, for moderating, and Rita and Angelica and Rae Dawn for making this a special celebration for Juanita. I want to thank Kathy Monroe again, the amazing ASL interpreter, for this event today. Also, I want to thank Keith Martin Gordey, our National Vice President, and Jen Viens, our ACTRA National Women's Chair, and our ACTRA National Women's Committee, and ACTRA National and all the staff and technical support, and ACTRA branch women's committees. There's a lot of people that have worked on all of this, and our ACTRA National Council and Executive, National Executive, and most of all, thank you, Juanita, the ACTRA National Woman of the Year, for your inspiration, for all your contributions of mentoring and helping women in this challenging but wonderful screen industry. And this conversation, I hope, will be shared. People need to hear it. So thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you, everyone, for joining our actual ACTRA virtual celebration today. And cheers to you, Juanita. Awesome.
Cheers, Juanita.
Cheers, Juanita.
ACTRA.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.